On video, TPUSA Chief of Staff Mikey McCoy stands near Charlie. A shot rings out. Mikey lifts the phone to his ear, turns, and walks away before Kirk falls.
And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board and my husband's chief of
are erupting across social media tonight. And fans are spiraling into full detective mode after a string of new claims appeared online claims, so explosive that even longtime supporters of TPUSA don't know what to think anymore. According to buzzing insider-style chatter, everything may come down to one mysterious phone call. A call that internet investigators say
when Charlie got shot, and Mikey, in less than a second, does something that I find to be quite strange. He puts his phone
down. Could change the entire timeline of what happened that day. And the wildest part, these stories aren't coming from outsiders or political rivals. They're coming from people who claim to have been close enough to feel the shockwave of the moment. Viewers everywhere are replaying the same 8 seconds of footage, whispering the same question. Why did Mikey McCoy lift that phone?
We're going to be doing about 5 more episodes a week now, so just tell the team and make sure that happens.
3 hours of this, 2 more hours of...
It's like, lady, wasn't your husband just publicly executed only a couple of weeks ago? I've never had this much joy.
At the exact second chaos broke out. And why did Erika Kirk later praise him with such intensity it felt rehearsed? Again, these aren't proven facts. These are circulating narratives that have fans shook, families divided in comment sections, and online communities scrambling.
Mikey McCoy.
the amazing Mikey McCoy.
My husband's chief of staff.
The amazing Mikey McCoy. And my husband's chief of staff.
Scrambling to piece together a puzzle that keeps getting messier by the hour. As more alleged insider comments surface, emotions are rising, accusations are flying. And everyone wants to know if this phone call was just a coincidence or something much more complicated. Moment Online viewers noticed that strange little phone movement in the footage. The entire situation shifted into a completely different emotional space. People aren't claiming they know the real story, and no one is presenting these reactions as confirmed facts. But the way conversations are exploding across social platforms makes it clear that audiences feel something is off, even if they can't describe it perfectly. The debate started with a single clip, but within hours, it grew into a full-blown drama where every tiny detail is being questioned, replayed, slowed down, and stretched into 1,000 different interpretations. It all begins with the same moment. Everyone keeps watching. Mikey lifting his phone to his ear at the exact second the noise hits the tent. Instead of jumping, freezing, looking around, or reacting with shock like most people would, he simply moves. Calm, steady, almost detached. He steps away from the area as if he's following a plan no one else was aware of. Fans online have been arguing non-stop about this. Some say he was overwhelmed and instinctively walked off. Others insist it looks too smooth to be random. But the overall feeling floating across social feeds is confusion. Confusion about the timing, about the body language, about how
This is a extremely disgusting attack. And I can speak to that because I was there when it happened and I was next to Mikey when it happened. And what I can say is, I can't say every single thing that happened, but I want to talk about this specific narrow thing. That the shooting occurs. I am next to Mikey. Both of us hear a loud crack. We both turn. We both see Charlie, who has been shot. Both of us, I think at about the same time, realize that that means there is a shooter who is on the scene. And
how a reaction so calm can exist in a moment. so tense, it didn't help that the speech that followed from Erika added another layer of intensity. She mentioned Mikey again and again, with a tone people are still debating. Some online viewers believe she was trying to express gratitude and hold herself together, but others felt her delivery didn't match the emotional weight of the moment. She stayed composed, almost rehearsed. She smiled lightly when she praised him, and that tiny smile turned into a lightning bolt for viewers already in detective mode. They froze the frame. They analyzed her expression. They compared her tone in different parts of the speech. And suddenly, what might have been a normal expression of appreciation started looking like something else to people who were already suspicious. Again, none of these observations prove anything. It's all speculative commentary born from online reactions. But speculation is powerful, especially when people feel like the details they're hearing don't match what their eyes are seeing. Real chaos started when different accounts of what happened surfaced. As more clips and statements made their way online, the timeline started fracturing.
First responders who struggled heroically. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
Fans noticed slight differences in each version, things that didn't perfectly line up. One person claimed the call was made instantly. Another implied there was a pause, and the footage suggested something else entirely. Audiences began stitching these statements together and found themselves staring at a puzzle that didn't exactly fit. It's not that anyone accused anyone of lying. It's just that memory is messy, especially under emotional pressure. But in the world of online commentary, messy memories often look like meaningful contradictions. Then came the debate about the lack of visible blood on Mikey. Some viewers zoomed into the footage, slowed it down frame by frame, and concluded that they couldn't spot anything that matched descriptions floating around online. They argued that if someone had been right beside the chaos, there would be visible signs. But in the clip, Mikey looks distant, turned away, engaged with his phone. This observation didn't settle anything, but it fueled even more discussion. Fans started saying his calm movements didn't look like someone who had just been through an emotional or physical shock. Another piece of speculation that spiraled across social platforms was the theory that the phone might have already been active. People pointed at the moment he lifts it to his ear, claiming the motion didn't look like someone dialing or calling. Instead, they said it looked like reacting to something already happening on the line. Again, this isn't a fact. It's just online interpretation, the kind that grows wings because thousands of people keep repeating it. But this speculation added fuel to the fire because it created even more questions about timing, awareness, and reactions. Interview 158 to 35 on top of that. Erika's later interview clips brought another layer into the conversation. In these clips, her tone seemed steady and articulate. Some viewers praised her for holding herself together during a difficult time, calling it a sign of strength. Others felt the composure didn't match the emotional storm surrounding the situation. The comment sections beneath these clips turned into battlegrounds. Fans argued about whether emotional control is suspicious or admirable. Supporters defended her, saying people grieve differently. Critics felt the tone was too measured for such a raw moment. Again, nothing proven, nothing confirmed. Just endless commentary shaping its own kind of story. The moment that kept resurfacing across platforms was Mikey's steady walk during the chaos. Viewers described it as almost cinematic, like he was walking through a completely different scene. His shoulders didn't tense. His steps didn't speed up or slow down. There was no startled jerk or confused hesitation. Nothing about the movement matched the atmosphere around him. Some viewers defended him, saying people freeze or act strangely under shock. Others questioned how someone could look so unbothered in a moment that shook everyone else. And this disagreement became one of the biggest points of conversation online. The online drama escalated even more when a long anonymous thread began circulating. The thread didn't present proof or evidence. It simply laid out a dramatic theory about internal tension and miscommunication. But because people were already primed to look for clues, the thread exploded. Viewers began connecting unrelated dots. They examined every expression, every pause, every word spoken in public statements. Some people treated the thread like a script from a drama series, pulling ideas from it and projecting them onto the actual situation. Interview 42553. As the drama grew, users started saying that the public responses felt a little too organized. The tone of the statements was similar. The reactions felt polished. The words used in various appearances sounded carefully chosen. Supporters argued that this is normal when a large organization faces a serious moment. Critics argued that the consistency felt like a coordinated effort. The divide in opinion widened. Some people felt reassured by the stability of the responses. Others felt like the calmness raised even more questions. All of this created a dynamic online environment where every clip, every photo, every spoken line turned into a potential clue. Audiences weren't looking for proof anymore. They were looking for patterns. They were looking for anything that felt out of place. They were breaking moments into pieces, assigning meaning to every tiny inconsistency. And while everyone acknowledged that none of these theories were confirmed, the excitement of the mystery kept them digging deeper. The result is a story that now lives entirely in reaction. Fans are invested. Followers are divided. Commenters are emotional. And every new clip that surfaces restarts the cycle all over again, adding new angles, new speculations, and new interpretations to a situation already overflowing with tense, complicated energy. Interview 611-629. The reactions reached a whole new level when a longer clip started circulating. One that gave viewers a wider look at the moment right after the loud crack. Suddenly, people weren't just focused on Mikey's movement. They were analyzing every person standing within a 10-foot radius. The reason this new clip became such a big talking point was simple: the contrast. Many individuals in the crowd flinched, jerked their heads, or instinctively reached out in confusion. Even people far from the center reacted with some level of shock. But Mikey's posture didn't shift. His shoulders stayed relaxed, his pace remained even, and his focus appeared locked on that phone. This contrast is what fueled another massive wave of online commentary. What made things even more dramatic was how differently people described their own emotional responses. Some viewers admitted that their instincts might be coloring how they interpret the footage. They said things like, "Maybe I'm overthinking this," or "I might be reading too much into it." But others doubled down, insisting that something about the timing felt just a little too steady, a little too controlled. These reactions weren't accusations, but they absolutely created a tone of suspicion. The internet has a way of taking small uncertainties and magnifying them until they feel like major revelations. Another moment that sparked intense discussion came from a leaked audio snippet that some commentators said originated from a live stream near the event. In the audio, there's a brief pause right after the noise, followed by people calling out in confusion. Listeners pointed out that during that period of uncertainty, Mikey doesn't seem to hesitate at all in the video. The split between audio and visual timelines added another layer of speculation. Many argued that it didn't matter if the difference was caused by editing, distance, or audio delay. The fact that it didn't perfectly match what they imagined raised more questions. The emotional impact of Erika's later comments also grew into a major conversation thread. Viewers kept analyzing the tone she used when mentioning Mikey, especially when she described him as amazing. For some people, it sounded like a heartfelt expression of gratitude. For others, it felt too soon, too polished, too steady. One user wrote, "The way she says his name feels like she's trying to convince herself." while another argued that grief expresses itself in all kinds of ways, and no one should judge her composure. This clash of perspectives turned into a long-running battle between two groups of viewers, those who believed her emotional tone was natural, and those who believed it hinted at something deeper. The interviews from people connected to the event, including friends and commentators, also added more confusion. One person claimed that Mikey immediately alerted someone important. Another claimed he didn't say a word for several seconds. A third insisted he was terrified. And each version created its own ripple effect. The reason these inconsistencies mattered so much to online viewers is because they made the situation feel unstable. In moments like this, people expect clarity, but what they got instead were small variations that only deepened the mystery. This is where the storyline began taking on a dramatic life of its own. Users dug through timelines, compared statements word by word, and tried to build their own interpretation of what happened. Even though no one had full context, the urge to piece together the fragments became overwhelming. Social platforms became digital investigation boards filled with theories, speculations, and emotional reactions. No one was presenting concrete claims, but everyone was questioning whether the details being shared reflected the full picture. The calmness in Mikey's body language became one of the biggest talking points. People slowed down the clip so much that each step looked like a separate image. They pointed out how his shoulders didn't twitch, how he didn't look back over his shoulder, how his steps didn't falter even for a fraction of a second. Some suggested his reaction was simply a survival instinct, a sign of someone trying to quickly move away from a possible danger. Others argued it looked more like someone who wasn't startled in the first place. Both sides had emotional backing from viewers, which only made the debate more intense. As this discussion exploded, another angle emerged. Online users noticed that the official statements released afterward focused heavily on praising loyalty, devotion, and inner strength. Those phrases were repeated across several posts and interviews. While supporters saw this as a natural way to honor people during a difficult moment, critics felt the repeated phrasing sounded strangely uniform, almost like it had been coordinated. Even though there's nothing unusual about unified messaging during a crisis, the tension online made every detail feel loaded. That tension only intensified when commentary channels began weighing in. They pointed out how the pace of public responses seemed rapid, almost synchronized. Some videos and interviews appeared within hours of each other, each emphasizing calmness and loyalty. The timing fueled even more speculation. People started questioning whether the speed of these responses reflected transparency or an attempt to calm the public before speculation grew too wild. And ironically, those very attempts at reassurance ended up sparking even more curiosity. Meanwhile, a growing number of viewers felt that both Erika and Mikey seemed composed in their public appearances. Again, this wasn't an accusation. It was an emotional reaction. People expect certain visible signs of tension during such traumatic moments. And when those signs didn't appear strongly enough, viewers began to speculate. One person wrote, "The way they're talking doesn't match the weight of what happened." Another wrote, "Maybe they're just trying to stay strong." These opposing interpretations kept feeding the cycle of debate. Another topic that went viral was the comparison between Mikey's reaction and Erika's facial expressions. Viewers began examining how her face changed when mentioning different people, especially when she referenced Mikey. Some felt she looked genuinely emotional. Others said her expression softened in a way that made them pause. The conversation spiraled further when older footage resurfaced showing Mikey and Charlie working closely together. Some people claimed their bond looked authentic and deep. Others argued that the closeness made the reactions in the newer clip feel even more unusual. Through this entire wave of speculation, the biggest emotional driver has been the shifting sense of trust. Fans who admired Charlie felt protective over him, and that protectiveness intensified their scrutiny of anyone around him. They weren't accusing, they were reacting. And that reaction kept growing with every new clip, every new interview, and every new contradiction. Whether real or imagined, one of the wildest turns came when old videos surfaced showing Charlie speaking highly of Mikey in warm, personal terms. For many viewers, these clips added emotional weight to the current confusion. They couldn't reconcile the warmth in those older moments with the steady, distant body language in the footage from the event. That emotional mismatch fed the speculation even further. Supporters felt it proved a deep connection. Skeptics felt it made Mikey's calmness harder to understand. But what truly kept the speculation alive was how each new interview raised as many questions as it answered. Viewers began to notice small shifts in the way different people described the sequence of events. Even if the differences were natural, the online environment magnified them. Some people questioned why certain details seemed hazy. Others wondered whether emotional stress could explain the inconsistencies. This tug of war kept the narrative open-ended, giving everyone something new to debate. The more people analyzed, the more the story felt like a living, breathing drama. Theories grew complex, emotions heightened. Every new detail was treated like a clue. But despite all the noise, one thing stayed consistent. No one actually knew what happened in those exact seconds. All anyone had was a clip, some statements, and a cloud of interpretations built on emotion, confusion, and curiosity. And yet, the story kept growing by itself, spreading across platforms as people tried to make sense of a moment that didn't look as simple as it first seemed. The next wave of discussion online started when a few commentators pointed out something subtle that most people missed in the first few replays. They noticed a brief moment where Mikey's hand shifts across the phone in a way that looks almost like he was adjusting the device against his ear. Some viewers argued that this wasn't suspicious at all and that anyone startled might instinctively move their phone. But others felt the timing of that small adjustment made the moment even more intriguing, especially because he did it before reacting to anything happening behind him. That tiny detail became a lightning rod for debate, pushing people deeper into speculation, while also pulling more emotional reactions from viewers who were already invested in untangling the situation. As people kept discussing these subtleties, the emotional tone of the entire conversation shifted. What started as confusion slowly morphed into something heavier. People began wondering why so many versions of events had surfaced, each just a little different from the last. The internet often reacts strongly when situations feel unclear or when storytelling feels inconsistent, and this was no exception. Viewers kept saying that every time someone tried to clarify what happened, the explanation only made things feel more complicated. It was like the puzzle pieces never fully clicked into place. No matter how many angles people examined, one of the most talked about clips came from an interview where a close associate described the atmosphere moments before the loud noise. They said people seemed relaxed, chatting, adjusting equipment, and preparing for the next segment. This description made the sudden shift in energy feel even more dramatic. Viewers replayed the clip of Mikey walking away and compared it to the interview's tone, pointing out how the relaxed environment didn't match the sudden, precise turn he made. Supporters argued that instinct sometimes kicks in before thought. Critics argued that instinct usually looks messy, not calm. And so the argument continued, with both sides equally convinced of their own interpretations. Then a longer version of the event footage began trending, giving viewers a better sense of the environment inside the tent. This wider angle revealed people turning their heads, flinching, covering their ears, or instinctively crouching slightly. Reactions varied from person to person, but the overall chaos was clear. And in the middle of that, Mikey's steady movements stood out even more. One viewer commented, It's like everyone else is reacting to a shock wave. And he's reacting to a schedule. Another viewer replied, or maybe he froze and walked without thinking. The clash of emotional interpretations made the discussion even more dramatic. Another factor added fuel to the fire. Social media users began pointing out how Erika repeatedly emphasized loyalty in her speeches, especially when mentioning Mikey. At first, many brushed it off as a natural reaction from someone who had recently experienced a deeply emotional moment. But as more clips surfaced showing her repeating almost identical lines in multiple appearances, people began to question whether she was trying to underscore something specific. The debate wasn't accusatory, it was emotional. Driven by people trying to make sense of something that didn't immediately make sense to them. Meanwhile, various commentators began sharing their own interpretations of the timeline. Some argued that Mikey might have simply been overwhelmed and needed a moment to process what was happening. Others said his behavior felt too coordinated with the noise, making people wonder whether something else was going on. Again, these weren't claims. They were reactions, the kind that spark endless threads online. This emotional curiosity kept the community engaged, turning every new detail into another layer of intrigue. Another moment that sparked heavy debate came from a resurfaced clip of Charlie speaking warmly about the dedication of people around him. Viewers noticed how deeply he trusted his team, especially Mikey. And this made the calm reaction in the event clip feel even more puzzling to some. A few viewers said the contrast between past warmth and present confusion created emotional whiplash. They felt protective, and that protectiveness made the footage harder to interpret objectively. Other viewers countered that trust can exist even when reactions look strange in stressful situations. This is exactly how online conversations work to sides. Both confident, both emotionally invested, neither willing to let go of their interpretation during all this. An emotional recording from someone who claimed to be present at the event began circulating. The speaker described the atmosphere as chaotic, filled with immediate confusion and fear. They said people were shouting, trying to get answers, and frantically looking around. When viewers compared this account with Mikey's calm departure, the contrast heightened the tension. One viewer wrote, "How was he so calm when everyone else was spiraling?" Another responded, "People react differently under stress. Some freeze, some flee." This back and forth kept spiraling into larger conversations, with emotions rising on both sides. There was also a lot of conversation about how quickly public statements were released afterward. Some people felt the speed was reassuring, a sign that the organization wanted the public to stay informed. Others wondered whether the rapid messaging was meant to guide perception before people formed their own conclusions. While there is no evidence of anything unusual, the timing alone was enough for viewers to start spinning multiple interpretations. People crave consistency in moments of crisis and when clarity feels out of reach. Speculation fills the gaps. Another dramatic moment came when viewers started analyzing the facial expressions in Erika's first major speech after everything happened. Her voice shook, her eyes glistened, and her smile appeared briefly when mentioning Mikey. Some viewers felt she was expressing genuine gratitude. Others said the smile didn't match the gravity of the moment. The emotional tension around that small expression became its own conversation. People slowed down the footage, pointed out the micro-expression, and built theories around it. Again, these weren't accusations. They were emotional reactions, driven by people trying to interpret feelings through a screen. The internet also began revisiting older footage of Mikey at various events, looking for patterns in his behavior. Many viewers noted that he often seemed calm, collected, and steady in high-energy environments. That observation led some to argue that his reaction at the event aligned with his personality. Others said that if he was usually composed, the contrast with the rest of the room made his calmness feel even more unusual. This dual interpretation kept the online debate alive, feeding both sides of the conversation. Throughout all this, one question kept resurfacing across every platform. What was happening on that phone? Viewers wondered about the timing, the silence, and the body language involved. One screenshot from the video, showing him holding the phone close to his face, became one of the most shared images during this wave of speculation. People circled his hand, the phone screen, even the tilt of his head, trying to decode something that simply wasn't clear. That lack of clarity is what kept the conversation going. The mystery wasn't rooted in accusations. It was rooted in people's desire to understand. Another angle that added emotional depth to the story came from the way different people described Mikey's demeanor in the hours following the event. One person said he seemed distant, quiet, and tense. Another said he seemed composed and focused. These differing descriptions only fed the idea that something deeper needed to be understood. Confusion often opens the door for emotional storytelling, and this situation was no exception. People weren't pointing fingers. They were trying to process the emotional weight of what they were seeing and hearing as the days went on. Viewers began linking unrelated clips, interviews, and statements, trying to find patterns that might help them piece together the puzzle. Every new fragment of information became fuel for new discussions. This is how online narratives grow through layers of interpretation, emotional reactions, and the human instinct to search for meaning in uncertain situations dawns slowly. The entire situation transformed into a sprawling digital mystery driven by curiosity, emotion, and a desire for clarity. People weren't just watching. They were participating, shaping the narrative as they shared their interpretations and reactions. Each detail, no matter how small, became a talking point. Each expression, each movement, each word added to the swirling conversation, creating a sense of ongoing intrigue that refused to die down. The story no longer felt like a simple sequence of events. It felt like a layered drama with shifting perspectives, unanswered questions, and emotional stakes that kept pulling people back for more as the conversations kept spreading across different platforms. Something new began stirring in the background. A handful of viewers started digging deeper into older public appearances, trying to understand the dynamic between Charlie, Mikey, and Erika before any of this ever unfolded. They pointed out how Charlie often relied on Mikey to coordinate schedules, manage details, and keep things running smoothly behind the scenes. Those older moments showed a close working relationship, full of trust and familiarity. But instead of easing people's concerns, these details somehow made the recent footage feel even more unsettling to some viewers. They couldn't reconcile how someone so connected could walk away so calmly during a moment when confusion swept through. The entire room, supporters argued that strong bonds don't always dictate perfect reactions in stressful situations. They insisted that in chaotic moments, people can act in unexpected ways, and it doesn't take away from their loyalty. But others said that the contrast between past closeness and present calm had become the calm line conversation. It made people feel protective, confused, and suspicious all at the same time. This emotional clash turned into an ongoing cycle where each new clip triggered more reactions, more theories, and more attempts to understand the dynamic. Another piece that viewers latched onto was Erika's sudden shift into a more public role after everything happened. She stepped into the spotlight quickly, giving speeches, attending events, and speaking on behalf of the entire team. Many felt this showed strength and resilience, a way of honoring the work her husband had built. But others found the timing oddly swift, adding another layer to the tension already forming around the situation. Social media users began asking whether she had been preparing for a leadership role long before the event or whether she simply stepped up because there was no one else who could. One particular interview where she spoke about the importance of carrying on Charlie's legacy became one of the most rewatched clips of the week. Her voice cracked at certain moments, and she gave several emotional pauses. Some viewers felt these pauses were signs of genuine grief. Others argued that the pauses seemed measured, almost like she was choosing her words with extreme care. Again, these interpretations weren't accusations. They were emotional responses from viewers trying to read expressions through a screen. The more people rewatched her speeches, the more they focused on a single repeating line she used, staying loyal to the mission. Each time she said it, her tone wavered just slightly. In some speeches, the word loyal sounded heavy, like she was holding back tears. In others, it sounded firm, like she was making a point. That inconsistency became another source of speculation. Viewers began wondering if she was trying to reinforce trust or if she felt pressured to keep the narrative steady. The emotional weight of that one word turned it into a symbol of the ongoing confusion surrounding the entire situation. Another conversation began when a few commentators pointed out how quickly polished tribute videos appeared online. These videos contained soft lighting, emotional music, and clips that seemed edited with precision. Some viewers found comfort in these tributes, saying they offered a sense of unity and healing. Others thought the timing felt too fast, like the content had been prepared before people had time to process what happened. This contrast in emotional interpretation only made the situation feel even more dramatic. Another moment that sparked heavy discussion was when footage surfaced showing Mikey standing near the vehicle as Charlie was escorted out. Viewers zoomed into the frame and pointed out that Mikey appeared absorbed in his phone, not turning around or asking what was going on. Some said this was simply him trying to manage logistics. Others felt it suggested he already knew what was happening. Again, these ideas spread not because people claimed they were accurate, but because the footage lacked context. When context is unclear, emotions fill the gaps. And that is exactly what fueled the ongoing debate. Throughout all of this, people kept returning to one major question: why were the different versions of the story so inconsistent? One person said Mikey called within seconds. Another said it happened after a moment of panic. Someone else said he was in shock and couldn't react. These variations didn't necessarily mean anything suspicious was happening. But online viewers felt uneasy when stories didn't match perfectly. The inconsistency made people feel like they were trying to walk through fog, unable to see the full picture no matter how many times they replayed the clips. As days passed, more voices joined the conversation. Some defended Mikey fiercely, saying people were reading too much into a few seconds of footage. They pointed out that stressful situations can trigger unusual reactions, and no one can predict exactly how they might respond. Others argued that his behavior seemed too steady, too focused, too prepared. The emotional divide between the two perspectives grew wider with each new post, each new clip, each new interview. Another point of tension came from a resurfaced podcast segment where a close associate described how deeply Charlie cared about keeping his team united. Viewers felt this added another emotional layer. If Charlie valued unity so strongly, then why did the reactions captured in the footage feel so disconnected? This question made people revisit the clip again and again, searching for anything that might help them understand what happened in that moment between the noise, the phone, and the calm walk away. Then came a more surprising angle. Some viewers began focusing on the expressions of others standing near Mikey. They noticed that a few people appeared confused or startled, while Mikey stayed composed. One viewer commented that the differences in reactions made the whole moment feel almost out of sync. Another viewer countered that people experienced shock in completely different ways, and nothing about the clip proved anything. This tug-of-war between interpretations kept feeding the narrative, making the situation feel emotionally charged even without new information. Another striking moment came when a commentary channel shared a slowed-down montage of every person involved in the scene. They highlighted tiny details, hand movements, glances, steps, pauses. Viewers found themselves drawn into microexpressions they had never noticed before. Some felt the montage showed natural reactions. Others said it made the clip feel even more complicated. The more people analyzed, the deeper the mystery seemed to become. Not because of new evidence, but because emotions amplified every small detail. Another conversation grew around the idea that the event might have felt louder or more chaotic in person than the footage suggested. Some people argued that Mikey's reaction could have been influenced by shock, confusion, or instinctual fear. Others said that if he was genuinely afraid, he would have shown more visible signs of distress. This emotional mismatch fueled dozens of threads, each filled with intense debate, personal theories, and emotional reactions. Then a new voice entered the conversation, a viewer who claimed they had been at the event, but far enough back to only hear the chaos. They described feeling a sudden wave of confusion sweep through the crowd. Their account added another emotional layer to the story, making viewers imagine how overwhelming it must have been. But even this account didn't clarify the mystery. It only deepened it. Because while they described the chaos vividly, they admitted they couldn't see Mikey clearly enough to interpret his actions. This left viewers stuck in the same cycle of uncertainty, trying to make sense of a moment that felt too complex to decode. And yet, the video kept circulating, drawing in more reactions from people who hadn't seen it before. Each new wave of viewers added fresh interpretations, fresh theories, and fresh emotional energy to the story. As this continued, people began reflecting on how quickly events can escalate online. A few seconds of footage turned into weeks of speculation. Small pauses in a speech turned into hours of debate. A subtle movement became a symbol of something bigger. Viewers weren't just analyzing a video. They were trying to interpret a moment that felt emotionally heavy, unclear, and deeply unsettling. And even though there were no clear answers, the story kept pulling people back in, creating a sense of shared curiosity that refused to fade. The situation didn't feel resolved. Instead, it felt like a narrative suspended in midair, waiting for pieces that never fully arrived. That lingering uncertainty is what kept the atmosphere tense, the conversations emotional, and the mystery alive in the minds of everyone who watched the footage, replayed it, and tried to understand what really happened in those puzzling seconds in the end. After all the rewinding, the slowed clips, the emotional interviews, the shifting explanations, and the endless discussions across every corner of the internet, one thing has become completely clear. Nobody feels satisfied with the pieces of the puzzle they've been given. Every version of events seems to open another door instead of closing one. Every explanation feels like it leaves another question hanging in the air. And every tiny detail, whether it's a small hand movement or a brief pause in someone's voice, somehow becomes the center of a new theory. None of this means anyone did something wrong. It simply shows how deeply people are trying to understand a moment that looked too strange to ignore. This entire story has turned into an emotional storm where viewers are trying to make sense of reactions that don't match the feelings they expected. Maybe it really was confusion. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe there's more context that hasn't made its way to the public yet. Right now. That uncertainty is what keeps the entire conversation alive. And the biggest question still lingering is the same one that started everything. What was happening on that phone call? And why does the timing feel so sharp, so precise, so impossible to overlook? Until answers become clearer, all anyone can do is watch, listen, and keep asking questions. Moments like this leave people divided, curious, and emotionally pulled into a story that refuses to settle. If you've watched all the way through, you're exactly the kind of person who pays attention to the details that others miss. So make sure you drop your thoughts down below. Tell us what you think really happened. Let your voice be part of this unfolding conversation. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to see these clips for themselves. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from finished, and you'll want to be here when the next chapter breaks.